Hi, my name's Jim with Ultrex IT. Thanks for taking the time to watch this short video explaining the basics of how to get the most out of your new Unifi Protect camera system. So to start with, you're going to go to ui.com. ui.com, you see on the address bar there. Once you do that, in the upper right hand corner, you'll see a menu here to sign up. This is to create your account so that you can log in and view and administrate your camera system. We do strongly recommend signing in with an account that is unique to you, not one that is shared communally. There are some nice features when it comes to accountability and being able to see if someone does something improper, but that comes from having unique accounts for each member logging in. So, once you click sign up, you're going to fill out a simple one-page form. It will ask for your email. Once you get the confirmation email to validate that email account, at that point you have a ui.com account, but we haven't yet given you access to your Unifi Protect camera system. Once you've made your account, please shoot your installer an email and let them know what email address you used to sign up for an account so that they can then invite you to your camera system so that you can administrate and control that system that you've installed. Once you receive that invite from your installer and you click accept on that invite, you'll be able to view the actual camera system. So let's head over there now and see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm using a church here that we've done some work with and has given permission for us to share their camera footage for this training. Thanks, Morningstar. Now, what you've got on your main home page is on the top, you've got your most recent or ongoing motion alerts. Any camera that's saying it's got something going on. These are just little snapshots of what's going on, and honestly, there's not really enough to fit to really matter, but it is nice that it shows you something. The bar on the bottom is even less useful, just lets you know what amount of motion activity you're seeing and where the most amount of sound and motion is. Mostly it's an excuse for them to make a pretty graph so people think it looks cool. Over on this left-hand side, you do get some useful information. It'll show you things like how long has the system been online, so you know if it's been restarted or turned off for any reason. On top of that, it's going to show you how much storage in terabytes or gigabytes you have. Below that, it'll let you know how long that storage equals for the amount of cameras that you have. This will show that this particular place has 44 days of recording, 18 hours and 24 minutes. That means if they realize that a car was stolen after 45 days, then unfortunately all of the footage for that will be overwritten by the newest footage being recorded now. So that gives you your window of how long are you able to go back in time and review footage. So it'll let you know how long overall you have. That's a very important number, unique to your particular installation that you do want to be aware of. You can always make this number bigger by adding larger or more hard drives into this enclosure. If you ever need that, feel free to reach out. We are able to help you with that upgrade, and it's a really easy process. So now we're going to work down the bar on the left-hand side here through all the features and how they work. So to start with, you've got your Unifi Devices page. This will let you know a list of each of your cameras, the status of them being online, the model of the cameras, and then over on the right-hand column, we find this one useful to confirm that the cameras are recording always. Now, our default is to record always because we feel like if you pay good money for a camera system, finding out that there wasn't enough motion to trigger a particular motion alert can be really frustrating when something does happen and you need to review the footage. So our default is to record always, but if you ever find there's a camera that's just, I don't want that one recording 24/7, I'd like it on a schedule, or I'd like it on motion only, we can do that with you. That would extend how long your footage will last, but it means there is a chance you may not have footage at a key or a particular moment. Next up, you say, great, a list is nice. I'd actually like to be able to watch my cameras, so I can click on Live View. It's worth noting, in this view, you pick what shows up. So there's a particular view right here where they've got this number of cameras, but I have one I watch when I'm at work called Jim's Favorite View. So in the bottom center of the screen, when I move my mouse over it, I'll see this item here that says Select Live View. If I click on that, I can select a different view and have a view that I find more helpful. I like to know if before I step out into the parking lot late at night that there's nothing going on I should be concerned about. So being able to have the cameras up, if you're going to leave them on, for example, a TV for security monitoring, it's nice to pick a view angle that you like. When you're on this view, no matter how many cameras are on it, you can click on a given camera to make it take up the whole screen. You can use your trackpad and pinch and zoom, or a mouse if you have a normal mouse, where you can scroll hey, I can verify nobody's in my car before I step out and head home for the night. If I click again, it makes it go back to just that small area. Now, our default for our installations is that each camera is going to have in the top left the name of the camera as well as the timestamp. So if you do download any footage or you're looking through, you can know that you're watching a camera that is still active. Since none of these cars are moving right now, being able to see the timestamp moving lets me know that I am watching something in real time and there's just nothing going on in a parking lot at night. So I can click again. Now you might say, how do I make the view have the sort of stuff I want? When I click Select Live View, I can say, let's add a live stream. Over on the right-hand column here, I can select how many cameras I want to be in my view, up to a maximum of 26. I will warn that if your internet connection is particularly slow, and then you're watching something with 24 1080p or 4K streams, you may find it have a lot more buffering time than a smaller number of cameras. So do make sure you angle this based on the internet speed of your location. But let's say I pick 5 cameras. It creates a grid here for me. Over on the right-hand column, I can grab whatever camera I want and just drag it onto a given area. You'll notice it puts a check mark here, letting me know that that camera is represented. If I grab and drag 2 cameras to the same area, it'll let me decide if it rotates back and forth between them every number of seconds or every time there's motion. Personally, I like to just have 1 per, because when I'm watching something and I see something happening that's interesting and then it jumps to another camera, I find that frustrating. But you can put as many cameras as you want in each particular area. So I'm going to grab a few cameras and just drag them in. And if I put 1 in each of these areas, now I've created this view. I'm going to scroll back up to the top and click on Settings, and I can give this view a name, like Jim's Test View. It's worth noting, this area right here, typically when you make a view, that is private to only you. It doesn't mean other people can't see the cameras, but the layout and the name of that particular grid view is personal to your logged in account. If you want to share it with everyone else, so you make a one that you might label default view, for example, you can click this button right here to share it, and that will allow other people to see that same view. So I'm going to click Save, and now I've got a view that gives me 4 small cameras over here and 1 larger one where I can monitor some doors. Now, what if I'm watching a camera and I see something happening of interest and I want to go back and figure out when did all this stuff show up on my stage? So rather than in this live view, which surprisingly enough has only the live view, I'm going to go down 1 more notch where it has the button for playback. If I click on playback, this is where I can select a given camera in the main window here. I'm going to find that exact camera we were just looking at, and I can see, okay, there's some stuff there. Over on the right-hand side, I can scroll this camera back and go back in time. Now you'll notice right now I'm going back in time, but this is going back in very small increments. That's because this area at the top is zoomed all the way in. If I drag it over to the other side, now when I scroll, I'm scrolling in larger swaths of time. So I'm going to keep scrolling until I find where that came in. And here we go. We can see the guys putting that particular item out, the work they're doing on it, and that allows me to figure out when that came to be. You'll notice on this bar, any area that's highlighted in blue means it knows there was motion going on there. So when it was the middle of the night and the lights are off, these dark areas, I knew nothing was going on. I didn't really need to look at them very closely. That's on the timeline view, and again, I can just drag and swipe back and forth. If I click on detections, it just brings them to me as bubbles I can click on for each one to go right back to a particular motion event. Now, let's say I find a particular item that happened and I say I need to save this particular footage. If I click on the download button right down here, when I click download, it's going to give me a start and end time. I can drag these and say I want from here to here and select a timestamp of starting and ending down to the second. When I click download down here again, that will download to my computer that footage. It's worth noting, if I queue up a very small footage, you're going to see how quickly this goes, because I was only grabbing a minute or 2 of footage. If, on the other hand, I grab a 2 hours worth of footage, you can expect that's going to take longer to download to your computer, as well as to render the video to start even downloading. So if you pick a long timestamp, just give it some time. It's working on it. If I want to, I could also click delete footage, and it'll say, when do you want to delete? Maybe something happened that I need to ensure remains private, and so I can click delete. I'm going to go ahead and do that on this footage. It's going to ask me to confirm. Are you sure you want to delete 52 seconds from this catwalk feed? Yes, I do. And I'll show you a really cool feature here shortly about how that works and what sort of ramifications that creates. It's worth noting you can do each of these from the app as well. Both scrolling back in time, downloading footage, and deleting footage can all be done from the Unifi Protect app on both iPhone and Android. Sorry to the one Windows Phone user still left, but you're left out on the cold. All right, so now working our way down on the left-hand bar, the next one you have is detections. This just gives you a bird's eye view of action going on all your different cameras. And if I click on any one of them, it will play a snippet of the action that triggered that alert. Truthfully, the Insights page is really more for nerds like me. This allows us to do things like figure out where motion is happening on a given camera. So we would know on this camera there's very little wasted footage where it's never capturing any motion. Most of this is very useful. That's things that your installer will use as they install a camera to make sure we're maximizing your dollar output. But if you would like to look at it, it can be fun to play around with. Next up, system log. This will give you things like you can see, for example, this place had a power outage 17 hours ago, and you can see they lost a bunch of their cameras, and then they came back online. That's a thing to be aware of. Updates, you can know if your camera did an update, but then very importantly, under admin activity, this is one that most customers do use on a regular basis, and this will show you things like, for example, I logged in with my login, not a communal shared login, so when I deleted something, it keeps that in a log, and I don't have the ability to remove this. So for example, this church gave the okay for me to log in and play with their camera system. Every one of them will know that I deleted a particular timestamp of footage because the system has accountability. And notice it does the same thing for downloading. So you can see that I downloaded footage, that I deleted footage, that I logged in. You can see every person that logged in and whether or not they did it from the mobile app or from the web. All of that can be very useful just for trust and accountability purposes. Motion and smart detection, truthfully, no one uses. Down here on push notifications, though, there are some things people do tend to use. If I click on the system notifications, you can turn notifications on or off. Things like if a camera goes offline, would you like to be informed of that? Or would you just like to find out when something happens that you wish you had footage for? So we do things like we get to know every time a new camera is discovered on a network. We get to know if the program has an issue or notices a camera going offline. So if you would like those same level of insight into your system, this is where you can get into a nitty-gritty detail. The bell icon in the left-hand column is telling it to notify your app if you have the Unifi Protect app logged in on your phone. The right-hand column is specifically for emails, so it will send you an email alert. I would be very careful using those on the detections page, because if you say, I want an alert of every motion, you're going to get quite a few alerts. Every tree that blows in the breeze and every time somebody drives by. We've got one place we support with a camera that does point towards a street, and he found himself with a few thousand notifications on the first day. So you want to make sure that you only turn these on very cautiously for cameras that may be indoors in lower trafficked areas if you need to know specifically. You can do things like geofencing. And what that means is if I tell it when I'm off site, it knows when your phone is at your location. And so if you were on location, you would not receive alerts. And if you were off location, you would receive alerts. You can also do it at a custom schedule. For example, if it's an interior camera and you want alerted only if something has high motion in the night, that can be a wonderful system all right here. It's just worth being very cautious with those and plan on getting some over spam while you tune in the sensitivity of cameras for motion and alerts. Last up, but very important, is you want to be able to know how to give people access to the system. So one on this upper bar here, next to this one that we've been on this whole time, I clicked on the one with a gear on it for OS settings. And then I click on admin and users. It'll give me a list here of each person with a login. If that login has ever been used, it'll tell you that it's active. If you've invited them but they have not clicked the invitation link, it'll show as pending. It's a good habit. If someone leaves it on pending forever, go remove the invite just so they couldn't get breached and have someone getting in when they didn't even really know they had ever used the account. If you see a particular login that has a dash here instead of an email, it means that they are local login only. They can log in and view the camera system only from a computer on premises by the IP address. If they have an email, it means they could log in from their phone or from a web app, regardless of what location they happen to be in. This column here shows you the last time they logged in, their role, and what sort of permissions they have. If you want to set up any sort of special or unique logins, it is possible to do things like give someone a login where they can only view certain cameras and not others. That tends to be something we help you with, so if you'd like a hand with that, don't hesitate to let us know. It's all part of the install, and so if that's a thing you would like, we can give you logins to specific cameras for specific people. This is really helpful in cases of things like a school where maybe you want a teacher to be able to log in and view their classroom if they need to head to the restroom for a moment, but you don't want to give them the access to every camera on school because then they got to dig through all the cameras to find the one for them particularly. So it can be very helpful to give someone a login that gives them just the cameras they want to be able to play with. So with that, that's really all of the core settings. We change all things before we install it for things like motion sensitivity and recording 24/7 and locking down the security of the device. We take care of all of that when we pre-flighted your equipment before we brought it to you. But if you find that there's any settings you don't particularly understand or you'd like to hear more about, feel free to reach out. We're happy to answer questions and walk you through it. Most of all, we hope this system serves you for years to come. We appreciate you trusting us with serving you and your team. And thanks again for choosing Ultrex IT. Have a wonderful day.